my first question is like, what inspired you to become a filmmaker, man?
Yeah, so when I was 12 years old, the satellite TV revolution just began, and suddenly there was a proliferation of TV channels in our drawing rooms. So I began watching MTV as a child, and those music videos really, influenced me, and they really influenced me, and I decided I wanted to be a filmmaker after that. Although not, it's not like I decided at the age of 12 that I wanted to be a filmmaker, but I realized that this was going to be something that really attracted me, making films. And I thought you get to be rich and famous if you make, make films. And I couldn't have been further from the truth. But yeah,
And what did you study like during your graduation days?
I did English honors from Sri Venkateswara College, and I also did my masters in English literature from the same place. And then I went to FTI.
And when you were doing your masters, like you knew about FTA and you knew at that point of time you want to become a filmmaker.
I hardly knew about FTI. I used to think FTI was this far off place where very old people go there, because the overarching impression one had was that people in their late 20s or 30s go there, which is true and which is not a bad thing. But at that time, as a teenager, I thought it was, perhaps not for me. So I opted for, when I was 23, I opted for the 1 year program, which is the television direction program in FTI. Yeah, because I didn't want to spend a lot of years doing that. I don't know if it was the best decision, but it worked for me. Yeah.
Ma'am, in FTA you found interest in documentary or was it earlier?
Was it earlier? No. I actually personally feel that documentary and fiction are superficial boundaries, you know, and a film is a film, whether you classify it as fiction or non-fiction. Documentaries also use the same techniques as fiction, so I consider myself both a fiction and non-fiction filmmaker. And so in FTI, I wanted to do fiction, but it was good that we had a program that had, both fiction and non-fiction in the curriculum. So it was good. I got a taste of all of that.
So ma'am, before making your own film, like you used to assist.
Yeah. Actually, before FTI, also I assisted a filmmaker, and I'm not going to name that person, but I was so disappointed by this person. I thought filmmaking is very sleazy, and I was so disappointed by him that I thought I'll quit film. But then I got through FTI, and that changed everything. And during FTI, I assisted Amit Datta, among other filmmakers. Like for a few days, I assisted Amit Datta on his diploma project. And after FTI, also I assisted briefly, some ad filmmakers in Bombay. And then I kind of realized what I had known all along, that, you don't really learn too much by assisting. Film direction, because it has to come from within you. The talent has to come from within you. So, assisting, it's best to make your own films rather than assisting. And uh, yeah.
So ma'am, there's a myth like they say if you want to become a director, like you have to assist someone. So is it true? You think it's
I don't think it's very true. I mean, some of my I really feel that filmmakers should just make their own films. You can learn a lot of things by assisting, but those are mostly logistical things. When you observe, The problem is also that people who assist for too long, they just imbibe their director's style without knowing why that person has taken a certain aesthetic decision, so, and it's difficult to find your own style when you're thinking constantly about someone else's style. So I would advise that it's not bad, assisting is not bad, and there are filmmakers even like Jafar Panahi and Claire Denis who assisted for years and years. So I mean, assisting teaches you, definitely teaches you a lot, but you have to find your own inner voice as well. So for that, I would recommend just making films instead of looking at others make films.
And ma'am, if they say if they want to go to film school, so what will they say?
See, when I went to film school 20 years ago, things were a little different. The world was opening up, but it hadn't opened up the way it has now, you know. So it was good for me to go to film school. It did help me a lot, you know. I had problems with the program that I was in, but it helped me a lot. Going to FTI, it put me on a very focused path. So I would say in today's day and age, at that time, we didn't have access to so many films outside FTI. We didn't have access to so many film journals and magazines and books like the ones which are stocked at the FTI library. So now everything is available online. So the choice is now, the only thing that matters now is if you have good faculty, because you need a guide. You can't just navigate. I mean, what I mean is that, yes, with all the resources at your disposal, in today's day and age, everything is available on the internet, yes, but how do you pick and choose? So, and you also need somebody to guide you about your process, whether your films are working or not, and that is a very subjective thing. And you need somebody who can really see crystal clear your work, and guide you about how to improve yourself and not imitate others. So this kind of thing, faculty is very, very important. And if you get good faculty at a film school, then you must join the film school. And if the film school does not have a good faculty record, they don't have the kind of filmmakers you trust, then don't go. Then it's best to just make your own films and get people to look at your films and ask them for their feedback. I think that would be a much better approach than spending years in a film school. Unless, of course, your faculty is terrific. Like I've taught filmmaking. I used to teach at Bennett University. I taught screenwriting and direction. And yeah, I mean, people are, how do I put it? It's this only. I mean, people are privileged to go to film schools. Not everybody can afford that, and it's not the only way. It's not the only way.
So ma'am, you have a short film about dot dot dot. Is it your first film?
Yes, yes, it is.
So ma'am, how the idea came and what was your experience in that?
The idea, just I was actually languishing in Bombay. I was an assistant. I hated my life, and I was just dying to make my own film. And we used to have an organization called PSBT, which is still there. They hardly produce films now. I mean, I shouldn't be saying that. They've reduced their film output now. And PSBT was instrumental in launching the careers of several documentary filmmakers in India. So I applied. They had a gender and sexuality cycle. They were inviting films. So I just applied with a film on this topic because it seemed that nobody in India had tackled this idea of breasts. So I just applied, and to my utter surprise, they just said, "Okay, come on." So so at that time, my experience was this, that I was quite sick myself. I was told by doctors that I had whatever, some diseases and this and that, and I was very depressed and I was very weak. Uh, but having said that, I did my shoot. I enjoyed the shoot. I enjoyed the edit. I just feel that I could have done better had I been healthier. I could have done better. But still, when I look at the people's response to this film, even now, it's something like what, 18 or 4, I don't know how many years have passed.
It was in
About
2010.
2008,
Okay.
2008. So that's like what, around 18 or something, 18 odd years, and or maybe less than that, 14 years, something like that. So even now the response is quite positive, because it's a very funny film.
I also love the film.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of humor in the film, and people don't expect humor in documentaries. They're supposed to be, the sad music and sad tragic topics, and body image is a very serious topic. People talking about it in a humorous way, it's a little unexpected. So yeah, I mean, I'm sort of happy with the film. I wish I had done more.
It's a short film, like 28, 30, around 20,
Yes,
30
yes,
minutes.
yes.
And ma'am, the only film which I've seen like related to this topic is Vaishali Sinha, The Expert,
Right,
uh,
right.
by
She's a good friend of mine.
Vichitra Collective member
Vichitra Collector,
of,
yes.
yes. So it's a great film, ma'am. And ma'am, how much time it took to like complete the film?
A short film about?
Yes, ma'am.
I think it took me about 3 years, but a lot had to do with the fact that I was unwell also. And also, there was this issue that people were, I, I had a lot of difficulty in finding people who would be ready to talk on camera. So I would research, and some people would say, yes, we'll talk on camera, but the moment the camera would roll, they would change their minds. Because it is, I understand that. I don't blame them. It's a very it's a sensitive topic, and people are open talking about it in general, perhaps, but not on camera. I understand that totally. So yeah, it took a long time to research and find people who would talk so candidly.
Ma'am, then you made Searchers,
Yeah, searcher, yes.
but ma'am, it was made in 2020. Like the gap is
Yes,
really
yes, yes, yes. That's
why is this?
because the gap was because I was very sick for a very long time. I didn't know whether I would come back to filmmaking or not, but I did, and thanks to, I think, my guru's grace, and also a little bit of modern medicine, a lot of things combined together. But I'm fine now. I mean, you can't figure out that I've faced a very long illness.
Ma'am, how the idea came for the Searchers and what was the experience there?
Searcher was, I had just been diagnosed with schizophrenia, and I couldn't fathom how on earth I think I was trying to make peace with myself, and I was wondering how on earth could I have developed this disorder. It was a shock. when it began, it came as a shock to a lot of people. And to me as well, I took a very long time accepting that I had some problem. So, anyway, the idea came because uh, I was just creatively trying to find out if, you know, my grandparents had been through the partition. So I was just trying to creatively interpret the idea of generational trauma, whether the trauma that my grandmother went through during the partition has that percolated through the genes into me and developed into schizophrenia. So that is the theme of the film. But the real theme, I think, is that, uh, and it's there in, I think it's ever present in all my work, uh, even in fiction. I've written a fiction screenplay, and it's very much there in my fiction screenplay also. The idea of art as therapy, and so in Searcher you see the tools of filmmaking brought out into the open, like into the film in the end, and it's just a way of healing oneself through the process of making this very film. You know, so that was the idea. So the theme of the film would really be, I think, healing oneself of one's ghosts, internal ghosts and demons.
And ma'am, in both of your film, like there is a use of voiceover, which is very important.
Yeah.
So is it like ma'am intentional, or while developing the
No,
script?
no. In the first film, I was actually very hesitant to use the voiceover, but it was just to tie up things in the first film. The voiceover is, I would even sometimes, I won't call it a, I'll just say it was used to tie up loose ends. But and also, I also wanted to place myself in the film, in a short film about. Because I was very grateful for all these women who spoke so candidly about their bodies, and I wanted to place myself in the film along with them, sharing my own experience of life and my body as well. So that was there. So voiceover was instrumental in that. And in Searcher, well, the film is about me, although it's something like it's neither fiction nor non-fiction. But the voiceover is me, and then there is this fictional voiceover of the ghost or the jamun tree, you know. So it's all deliberate. Yeah, it's all deliberate. It's not like a fact. It's not a factual documentary or anything. It's a creative, poetic essay, really. So yeah.
So ma'am, Searcher is a more personal work. So were you hesitant while making the film?
No, I wasn't. I was dying to make a film, any film. And this was really close to my heart. Not just any film. This was a film which was very close to my heart. And yeah, I also wanted to pay homage to my guru. And I also wanted to, I was uh, just to communicate with the world or with myself. How do I put it? I mean, it was a very personal film. It's very difficult, because when you're making I'm a very shy person, and to make personal films and put them out there is a very difficult job for me. But I don't know if I managed to answer your question, but so yeah, I'm sorry, I lost track.
No problem. I understand. Like I myself is a introvert person. I'm very shy,
Yeah. So
so I
I'm
get it.
I'm yeah. So like once somebody had remarked that. for to be a film director, you have to be the opposite of an introvert. And this is a very, when you're making a very personal film, it's very clear that I am very much an introvert, and out there putting my very personal feelings out there, it's a difficult task. It's a difficult task. Yeah.
Ma'am, another film, Flower Park,
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
Have you edited the film? Completed it?
I've completed the edit. I'm just subtitling it.
And ma'am, the main character who
Yeah,
wants to
yeah,
become an actor, and who is
yeah,
acting, and you are telling her to do the dialogues. Is it
yeah.
a documentary or fiction? Because I haven't seen this in any documentary.
No, it's documentary. It's very much documentary. The film is actually a part of a series of films, which are, it's based on a very zany concept by my friends Anuj Malhotra and Gaurav Puri. They are the producers also of this, and it's my film is actually an episode. It's just an episode in about 6 to 8 episodes, circling around some very sort of zany characters and a completely bizarre in a good way, like a fantastical scenario of time travel in Bombay, in the Bombay film industry. So they invited Anuj and Gaurav invited a number of filmmakers to, direct episodes of their story, their script. So I directed one of the episodes, and this is that episode. So I gave a script written by Anuj to my aunt to read out, to recite. And the film actually, I was going to shoot her as acting it out. But the film actually became about the rehearsals rather than the performance itself. So I've I've hardly shown it. I've shown it to very few people so far, and but they've liked it. It's also a little funny.
Because
Yeah,
you're telling her to do this. Yeah,
yeah,
first time. Great. And ma'am, are you doing anything else right now? Your future projects?
yeah. I have completed a screenplay, which is a fiction screenplay, and I'm looking for producers to mount that film. It's again a very personal film. It's a very personal film, even more personal than Searcher, perhaps. And yeah, when it comes out, you watch it. I won't, talk about it right now because I hope I don't get exhausted just talking about it.
Okay, great. Ma'am, if somebody wants to like assist you, how they can approach you, ma'am?
Well, I will be hiring assistants when I direct my next film, which is called Unstory. So I will be hiring assistants. So at that time, if somebody wants to assist me, they can write an email to me, and I will keep it in mind that when I need assistance, I reach out to them.
Do you prefer, ma'am, film school student or non-film school? It's fine.
That's a tough question. I think non-film school, it doesn't make a difference actually, but non-film school might be better because I mean, with some experience, I wouldn't want a completely raw person coming. But you see, film school students have tasted blood, especially, uh, you know, especially FTI. Then it's very difficult to get them to do your work because they're doing their work. I remember meeting Sham Benegal once, Sham Babu. I had gone to assist him, and he didn't keep me as assistant because he already had assistants. And he told me, I don't keep FTI assistants. because if he had already had assistance from FTI, and he said that they just faff around and they start telling the cameraman what to do, and they start directing the shots, and they not directing the shots, but they start they get too artistic, and they start instead of looking at the nitty gritties of work, they're not very good at that. I agree with that, because I think I also made a very bad assistant, you know, after FTI. So yeah, because once you've tasted blood, you know that you can do it perhaps in a different way. So that is there.
And ma'am, if you could recommend few films, your favorite films and filmmakers.
Sure. Like, from which zamana are you talking? Like contemporary
Your list,
or
ma'am.
any?
You can give me any filmmakers.
Okay, okay. I will recommend 2001: A Space Odyssey by Stanley Kubrick. Must have watched it. I would recommend Eight and a Half by Fellini. Must have watched it. Then there's so many. I mean, a lot of films which I like. Uh, I'm also writing a book on Indian independent cinema, you know, and so I'm looking at a lot of contemporary Indian filmmakers for that. And I would say Achal Mishra is pretty good. I didn't like his second film as much, but Gamaghar is very good. I taught it to my students also. I like Amit Datta very much, and I haven't seen him in many years. What else? The same stuff as everybody else, Tarkovsky and Kumar Shani. It's the same stuff. Which are the films that others would not have heard of, which I really like? That's gonna take a little racking of brains to come up with.
Take your time, ma'am. No problem.
Hmm. Basically, among the contemporary Indian filmmakers, I think Shah Rukh Khan, Chawla, and this one, Achal Mishra, are pretty good. Chaitanya Tamhane is very good. So Gurvinder Singh is very good. Uh, so I don't know who else to think of right now. I don't watch as many films as I should be watching, but yeah, you must watch the rest of the episodes in this uh, the series, of which Flower Park is a part. So those are some fantastic films, really fantastic films, mostly experimental in nature. Yeah,
Can I recommend few like from Vichitra Collective?
films from Vichitra Collective.
Yeah,
Oh, that way.
Girls Will Be Girls.
I haven't watched them actually. I'm waiting for the screenings. One film I watched recently, which brought tears to my eyes, was Guras by Saurav Rai. I watched it at SIF, which is a Cinevesture International Film Festival, and it was, yes, in Chandigarh. So it was really very nice. So I don't know what definition one gives, whether it's magic realism or what, but it's just that cinema has this ability to transcend time and space, and when you're making a film, you should, like, I notice, in today's films, first of all, I have a lot of problem with film journalism in India. Even perhaps abroad, I haven't read too much of that, but film journalism in India is done by journalists and not filmmakers. So I have a major issue with that. I think filmmakers should be writing a lot more film reviews and film essays, because they know what is editing, and they know what is cinematography, and they know that yes, it's a collaboration, and sometimes in some cases it's the director calling the shots, in some cases it's the collaborators who are really doing the job. So anyway, but to understand the craft, I think journalists are not enough. I don't mean to generalize everybody. I know it sounds almost scandalous when I'm saying this, but so now the thing is, when journalists cover film craft, they don't know too much about, say, mise en scène, which is an amalgamation of so many things. So journalists cover films in terms of social issues, and also in terms of characters and scripts and stories. Not scripts as much as story and character. I think that's not enough, because then you rely overly on the script. And the director's job, if you're a writer director, it's fine, but the director's job really, uh, you have to go beyond the script. The script is just a blueprint, and you must go beyond the script. You must see how the camera can tell your story, how the edit can tell your story, how the sound can tell your story. If your film can be written down on a paper completely, then it should just be on the paper. It should not be, why do you want to use the medium of cinema to make a film? It might as well be an essay, it might as well be a play, it might as well be a novel. Why make a film? So I think the problem with a lot of Indian films, especially, is that they stick close to this whole, oh, what is the story and what is this character, and journalists don't go beyond that. And because film journalism isn't too good in India, therefore people reading them are not very well educated in films. And I think film appreciation should be a subject in schools and in colleges, especially in colleges, you know. So, but what was the original point you were making? Uh, yeah, I'm sorry, I've lost my chain of thought again.
No problem. We were talking about favorite films.
Yeah, favorite film. So yeah. So that's it's difficult to say, okay, this is my favorite film, that is my favorite film, when there's so much mediocrity. And I think that mediocrity has a lot to do with the fact that, a, lack of good film education, b, journalists or film reviewers not really very educated themselves in films, and then people reading them are not very, they don't get educated very much either. So yeah.
Okay, okay, great. Totally agree. I totally agree. And ma'am, last question is, if somebody wants to become a filmmaker, like what advice would you give to them?
That depends on what kind of filmmaker they want to be. If they want to be a filmmaker like me, who is independent and broke, then I don't know how much I would recommend. Because the ecosystem is now such that, even, like, 15 years ago, you could make your living as an independent filmmaker. Even 15 to 20 years ago, you could have done that pretty easily. uh, there were enough grants, and there were enough bodies, funders in India who would help you out. But right now the situation is such that there nobody is funding films, independent cinema in India. So it's a very difficult time, and I'm realizing that one has to make one's living by doing something else, entirely something else. That doesn't say very well about anything at all. The ecosystem is completely shattered. Having said that, I'll say that it's in a way it's a good thing that only people who are really mad and passionate will come forward. But that's not good enough. That's not good enough, because filmmaking is not easy. You need support. You need support. You need financial support. And now that we don't have any government bodies helping us, we have to rely on, quote unquote, the enthusiasms of the rich. I've said this elsewhere also. And so we're looking for private funders who have some money to to spend. It's very, very difficult to find such people you know who know that the returns are not going to be too high in a monetary sense. you know and when it comes to looking for grants abroad, not only is the competition too intense, there's also the danger that they look at you through a colonial gaze, through a colonial lens. And I don't want to. I, for one, don't want to. I don't want some foreign funders telling me what to do with my film and how to project my country. So that's a bit of a problem. So if somebody wants to get into filmmaking, I'll say, first of all, what's stopping anybody now? The problem is, the good thing is that cameras are available, crews are available. Just you can you can do it very easily compared to 20 years ago or 30 years ago. So that is there. At the same time, there is no money in it, so you have to find a way of making a living. Or some lucky people get to make films as a living. I'm not one of them right now. I hope to be, but yeah. So if somebody wants to make films, I'll say make them. Definitely make them, but don't look at others, how they are making their films. Sure, look at their films, don't get me wrong. What I'm saying is, uh, don't imitate, and do what your andar ki awaaz says. Your internal voice has to come out. Your completely what bothers you the most has to come out, instead of oh, so and so is making a film about this topic, so maybe I should also do something similar. No, not that way at all.
Okay, okay, great. Oh, great, ma'am, great. On that, ma'am, thank you so much, ma'am, for joining.
You're
Such,
welcome.
such a
You're
pleasure.
welcome.